We don't need to do that shit, bro. I'm all about. We do that shit inside the ring, bro.
Let's make it happen. You don't want to do it.
You gotta do that shit inside the ring, bro.
You don't want to do it.
African boxer. Yeah. African boxer. Don't do it. Never been. Not on my blood. Never been, bro. Yo, you've been fed from silver spoon your whole life. Hell yeah, bro. Hell yeah. You ain't for nobody, bro. You ain't for nobody. I ain't want to go to what happened to the meeting with Bob? 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 Exactly. What happened to the meeting? No, I ain't got anybody. We gotta stop fucking talking shit and get in there and win. And we ready. We know what they do. Come on, man. Let's do it, bro. I'll take this shit all day.
Teofimo Lopez, the takeover versus Devin Haney. This fight has been in talks since Teofimo Lopez has dethroned the mighty Vasily Lomachenko. Now, the undisputed claim has been up in the air due to the fact that Vasily Lomachenko accepted franchise champion and that Devin Haney accepted a belt without fighting a champion. Some people will say Teofimo Lopez can't be undisputed unless he fights Devin Haney. But how could Devin Haney ever be a champion if he didn't fight nobody for the belt? It's very simple math. That's why in my eyes, Teofimo Lopez is the undisputed champion. And if there's any hiccups or any drawbacks for him being undisputed champion, then that responsibility would fall on Vasily Lomachenko. Vasily Lomachenko just could have fought Devin Haney and we wouldn't have this problem. This is where franchise champion comes in to mess things up. Franchise champion is nothing less than a ducking title to make sure that, whoever holding it, they don't have to fight certain fights. It's a title that I don't like, but you see what problems it caused. So now, basically, in a nutshell, there's two of the same belts out of there. Even though Mauricio Suleiman said that franchise champion is not a belt, it's a destination. Sometimes he says it's a belt. Sometimes he says it's a destination. Nobody know what it is. But one thing's for sure, it's one thing that was created so certain champions can avoid certain mandatories. This is the problem with franchise champion, and this is why it does not work. Nobody should want franchise champion. I don't like the fact that Teofimo Lopez accepted franchise champion. It's something of a fighter of his caliber he doesn't need. Teofimo Lopez is not shying away from any competition. He's not somebody that'll run from any competition. I think when people accept the franchise champion, they're just thinking about it or at least Teofimo Lopez is thinking about it from a money aspect. But I see him having no problems with challenging anybody that people want him to fight. So when it comes to Devin Haney, the true problem with Devin Haney is simply this. He accepted a belt in which he did not fight a champion to get. So therefore, he's always trying to overprove himself because he know and his father know that they got a belt off default. Now, I said before that Devin Haney shouldn't accept that belt. But once again, with that belt comes more money. So, of course, he accepted the belt. But to add on top of that, Devin Haney has had opportunities to put some stellar names on his resume or at least fight a little bit better competition. He has more fights than Teofimo Lopez, yet Teofimo Lopez's resume is a whole lot better. Now, whose fault is that? I think simply that Devin Haney and Team Haney were simply just comfortable with the money they was getting. I believe that Devin Haney got paid more for, I forgot who he fought, but he got paid more for one of his fights than Teofimo Lopez did for becoming undisputed champion. So if it's really about competition and fighting the best, Devin Haney has had the opportunity to put somebody on his name because he simply had more fights than Teofimo Lopez. That's plain facts. Now, when it comes to these two mixing it up, Teofimo Lopez says something that appears to be very relevant, and neither Bill Haney or Devin Haney answered. And that was simply, what happened with your meeting with Bob? There was no answer for that. So what did happen with that meeting with Bob? If you wanted to fight Teofimo Lopez, what happened with the meeting? You know, now if Bob Arum is trying to get you to sign with Teofimo Lopez to get a fight with Teofimo Lopez, then we all know at this point that the way Devin Haney is going about things, and when fighters call each other out in these confrontations, as fans, we should know now that this is not how fights are made. These boxers don't control basically who they fight. So for the most part, confrontations like this is useless unless the handlers behind them can get together to make a fight. And Devin Haney does a lot of barking and a lot of chasing people, trying to get fights. But the question remains, is he really trying to obtain these kind of fights? It seems to me that he just wants to be known for calling these people out. A lot of people call people out knowing the fight will never get made. It looks good on camera. But if there's some people out there that want to see Devin Haney versus Teofimo Lopez, then I'll sit in that box with him. I would love to see these two fight. It's just that I don't think that Teofimo Lopez needs to fight Devin Haney to prove that he's undisputed. The kid is undisputed right now. You know, and if anybody wants to take away that claim, then you need to take away Devin Haney's belt. Because if Teofimo Lopez didn't fight Devin Haney to become undisputed, well, Devin Haney didn't fight Lomachenko to become a champion. It's simple math. It's nothing more than that. But with that being said, when it comes to the fight with these two, it's Teofimo Lopez all day. I think Devin Haney is a decent little fighter, but he's very basic to me. He's extremely overhyped. I like that he has confidence in himself. I like that he believes in himself. But as far as people gauging his skill set, it's completely overshot. Devin Haney is not anything special. I look at Devin Haney, how people look at Errol Spence. I never place Errol Spence that high. Errol Spence has never been that impressive to me. Errol Spence, to me, for the most part, is a basic fighter. Devin Haney, to me, is a basic fighter. You get him in the ring with Teofimo Lopez, he'll stretch this kid out. And I'll put money on anybody who wants to bet. So if that day ever comes, come holla at Bruce. You know what I'm saying? We can go ahead and swap it up and I'll take your money. Because I know what I'm looking at when I'm looking at fights. Devin Haney is a good, basic little fighter. But he's not very well put together. He has holes in his game. And Teofimo Lopez, if he touches this kid on the tip of his chin, Devin Haney is lights out. You just got rocked by a burnt out Jose Linares that you barely pulled out of that fight. Yes, you dominated most of the fight, but you was on the brink of losing that fight. You know, if that fight went on another round, Devin Haney would have lost. And we all know that. And we all know that Linares is nowhere near what he used to be. Linares was burnt out when Lomachenko fought him. You know, so you can imagine what it is right now when Devin Haney gets into the ring with him. But nonetheless, I'm a fight fan. So if people want to see this fight, I want to see this fight. I'm not particularly interested because I know how the story ends. But I'm always down to see a good knockout. You know, I'm always down for that. But the skill sets is, you know, it's a complete mismatch. And it puzzles me how people don't see it. But we are a sport that's driven by casuals. So, you know, a lot of perspectives and a lot of talking points come from casuals, not real boxing fans, if you ask me, or at least hardcore boxing fans. But nonetheless, when it comes to these two, I think that it's still a good fight. You know, it's just not a fight that determines who's really undisputed or not, because there's two versions of the same belt out of there, you know. So, but this is where franchise comes into play, and this is where franchise champion becomes a problem. It's something that should not be in boxing. Mauricio Sulaiman will make anything up for the right kind of people to keep people champions. He says it's to make sure that it doesn't inconvenience these champions with these mandatories, but these mandatories and all these rules are your rules. The The WBC is constantly breaking their own rules, going back and forth, claiming people need to do this and do that when some people have to follow the rules and some people don't. But this is the problem with the sport. This is why, as boxing fans, we must keep it consistent all the way across the board. Franchise champions should not be allowed. And with that being said, as far as Teofimo Lopez having the franchise title, I think that's something that he should drop because it's something that he don't need. But I think it's something that, has to do with money at the end of the day. And I can understand that Teofimo Lopez is chasing that bag. But nonetheless, franchise champion is not something that no champion should want next to their name, because it carries a bad aura with it of somebody who's willing to duck. And Teofimo Lopez is a game fighter. I've said that since I first noticed the guy. So when it comes to this fight, I think Teofimo Lopez straight knocks Devin Haney out. But there's only one way to find out. But the question is, will that fight ever really get made? And can that fight be made? Like he said, what happened to the meeting with Bob? If nothing happened with the meeting with Bob, what do you expect to get done with Teofimo Lopez? So I think a lot of what Devin Haney does is just for show. And a lot of that is engineered by Bill Haney. Bill Haney is a grown-ass kid. Devin Haney has more maturity than his own father. His father runs around like he's living his second childhood. So a lot of this stuff is, to me, is just for show. It's nothing really going to come behind it, because if you're really trying to make that fight, you know what you got to do. You got Eddie Hearn on your team. Eddie Hearn can pretty much work with anybody. I know Bob is an asshole, and he's hard to work with, and he's money hungry and he's money greedy, and that's one of the unfortunate things about boxing. So sometimes the things that really hold these fights up is really the promoter at the end of the day. Bob Arum is a hard person to do business with because he's so damn greedy. Why does he need that much money when he's that old? I have no idea. It's almost like he's trying to buy a second life with his cash or something like that. There's no reason for him to be that uptight. So I think that Teofimo Lopez has bigger and better things to do. But nonetheless, if this is a fight that fight fans really want to see, then let's go ahead and do it.